And welcome you into Dodger Poke Report, where tonight we have a very, very, very special guest. Kendall Williams, as you see him on your screen, has joined Dodger Poke Report. So, Kendall, I want to thank you very much for joining me this evening.
For sure. Appreciate you having me.
All right, man, you have a good story, and we're going to tell it tonight, and I'm excited to tell all the Dodger stories, the Dodger fans, your story, and let them get to know you a little bit better. Let's back all the way up to Olive Branch, Mississippi. I have been there. It is a cool place. Had to have been a really cool place to grow up. So take us back to your Little League days, at least part of your high school days, some of your influences as you were growing up to love baseball.
My dad played college hoops, so I grew up playing baseball and basketball up until like my freshman year. But for as long as I can remember, baseball was kind of like my favorite thing to do, like for sure my favorite sport. So whole childhood was full of baseball. Until it really started to get serious and I moved to Florida and all the other stuff started happening.
Yeah, and one thing that kind of pops out about me, of course, you know, you have the big frame and you've always been extremely good at the game of baseball and you've had a lot of opportunities afforded to you. So at a young age, you've had a lot of big decisions to make, and you kind of hit on one there just a second ago. As a sophomore, after your sophomore year in high school, you had the opportunity to transfer to the IMG Academy, which is an awesome prep school, maybe the best prep school in the entire United States of America. So take us through some of the big decisions you had early, especially the decision to go to IMG.
So I had committed to Vanderbilt my freshman summer, and then the fall of my sophomore year, I was down in Jupiter, Florida at some tournament, and IMG had like a scouter out there. They saw me threw pretty well. They were talking to my dad, that whole gig. And we were already in Florida, and so they offered to kind of bring me over to the school and show me around and do all that. And it was, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's crazy. It's pretty nuts. So like after being on campus, seeing everybody, hearing all the stuff that we could do over there, just kind of opened up a lot of doors. And I jumped on the decision pretty quick.
And you had a dominating career there as an ascender. You had a 0.91 ERA. You were a second team Max Prep All-American, and then you had the offer from Vanderbilt, and I know, you know, obviously Vanderbilt's a very elite baseball school. Walker Buehler and several others have come from that program. Tim Corbin's a great coach there, and it's an elite educational institution too. But you know, then you get drafted, so then you have another huge decision. You know, you have a great opportunity at Vanderbilt, and you also have a great opportunity with Toronto. So take us through that decision.
Vandy obviously is an elite baseball academy, and then you get the elite academic side of that too. So as soon as I got the offer, like it was honestly a pretty easy decision for me. Pretty close to home, love Nashville. It checks a lot of boxes. So I made that decision, like I said, freshman summer, and then once I got to IMG, things got a little more serious. Like I kind of was a lot more focused, I guess you could say, just because I had more resources available to me. Had a good year, like you said, got the opportunity to get drafted. And that it was a pretty tough decision because, I mean, it's school or a pro career at an early age. But I think like going to IMG kind of allowed me to be a little more prepared than the average kid going into it. So I felt pretty strongly that I'd be okay. And I think it's worked out pretty well up to this point.
You're a guy that the Dodgers always wanted, but Toronto got you in the second round 2019 before the Dodgers rolled around for their second round pick. So you were a guy they always had their eye on, and whenever they had a chance in the Ross Stripling trade to acquire you, they jumped on it. So take us through the business side of the trade in after your first year of professional baseball.
It was definitely weird for me because in my mind, I wasn't really prepared for that. I mean, how can you be, especially coming out of high school? Like, I just kind of got settled with Toronto. Things were great. Like, I love the people. It was a great organization. And then I woke up one day. I was actually in San Diego after training with my pitching coach. Woke up one morning, had a text from the front office, told them to call me, or told me to call them, sorry. And reached out, and they told me that I'd gotten traded, and it all just kind of happened really quick. It was weird. Next thing I knew, I was getting picked up. I was on the way to LA, and just kind of the rest is history. But it was definitely different. It was exciting. It was kind of weird, but it was cool.
Let's back up just a little bit. Let's talk about the actual draft day for you. Obviously, being in the second round, that's That's a huge deal, and that's a huge day. Very exciting. So kind of take us through draft day, what it was like for you, some of the events that you had going on, and kind of how you felt when you heard your name called.
Super crazy day, as you can imagine. I actually had a couple of my boys from back home, my family, everyone had come out to Florida because obviously they were back home in Mississippi. So we kind of had everyone come out there. Went to the beach that morning, tried to just kind of do stuff to distract myself, not really think about it. Very anxious, obviously. Got everyone there. And the draft, it felt like it was taking forever. Like it was just, it was a couple minutes, but it felt like 30, 45 minutes. Like it was a very long process. But to hear your name get called, like it kind of makes it all worth it. That's just the first step in it, and the whole journey. Like getting drafted is not the goal. Being an all-star big leaguer is the goal. So that's just one little step along the way.
Couple of things about coming to the Dodgers. One, you're a very what I call projectable prospect, meaning you have, as good as you are already, a big frame, and you're still growing into that. I mean, you're still very, very young. So you have a lot of growth still to come, as good as you already are. And then that matches with the Dodgers organization, who in my opinion is one of, if not the best, development organizations in the world. So I would have to think that's a perfect match for you, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it all aligns pretty well, and I'm very blessed to kind of be in the position I am. It's all worked out well.
Yeah, and like I said, being very projectable and your fastball, I know you've gotten up to the mid-90s, as high as 96, and you have good vertical break on your slider, a good changeup that you're developing. So you had a good 2021. Kind of take us through your start this year, 2021, your first year with the Dodgers.
It was something. Like it's the first year, it's first full season, high workload. It's kind of different. Like no matter how prepared you think you are for it, like I said, it's a long year, so you kind of just have to do it to get a feel for what you're really in. But overall, like looking back on it, I feel really good about kind of how I handled the ups and downs of the lower levels of the minor leagues, and I think it was good for me. Like I needed to struggle a little bit. I needed to kind of go through that, and I'll come out better on the other side. So I'm looking forward to a big year.
You mentioned that you threw a lot of innings this year, a high workload. So take us through kind of what your off season has been. I know you're ramping up for spring training. That's just around the corner. So take us through what your off season has been for you this year.
It's been obviously the big thing for me has been strength gains, making sure my body was in the best position possible. And then I've made some mechanical changes, and I cleaned up the delivery, cleaned up my arm path, kind of shortened it up. I got a little long towards the middle half, back half of last year. And I was doing a lot of that stuff, so a lot of mound work earlier on in the off season. Now I'm kind of transitioning into the build, like the ramp up phase. So a lot of long toss, focusing on arm speed. But then as we get closer, 4 or 5 weeks out, like we are now, like we're starting to kind of correlate, translate things to the mound, and just really let it go.
I like to ask guys like you that pitch and are so extremely talented, and you probably had access to a lot of things that many high schoolers didn't, being at the IMG Academy. But how do the analytics help you? I mean, did you have access to that before you came to the Dodgers, and how has that helped you as far as since you become a professional?
They had the stuff at IMG. It wasn't like it was hands-on where we kind of all looked at it and things like that. It was just more for the scouts to have. So like it was just for people to see if they wanted to look at stuff like that. So we didn't utilize that in high school. Toronto, I got more kind of introduced to it, started to look at it more, use a little bit more. Then it's different because organization to organization, not everyone like really relies or cares on the numbers, the analytical side of it. Some organizations like us, like we live by it. Like it's kind of like ride or die for us. Same thing with the shift, where big organizations love to shift. So same type of thing. It's just more, we feel more strongly about it. And I think it's great to kind of use, if you use it as a tool, like don't get too wrapped up in the numbers, because the numbers don't mean anything if you're getting barreled up or you're walking the house or things like that. But I think it can be a positive for sure.
Yeah, and I hit on it just a minute ago, but the big fastball that's reached as high as 96, the slider, the changeup that's quickly developing into a plus pitch, 3-pitch pitcher. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I was a heavy sinker guy, and now I've kind of got the ride on my 4-seam that I've been looking for. It's more true, so I'm getting the splits off of that. So I'll have that, and then like you said, I got my changeups. It's more of a splitter grip now, but it profiles the same. So call it what you want. So 2-seam, 4-seam splits, splitter, slider, then really kind of focus on that breaking ball for just to flip in to steal strikes early, or just kind of like show them something different.
I would have to imagine, as tall as you are and the wingspan that you have, that 4-seam plays really well up in the zone for you, doesn't it?
For sure. And to have the kind of bowling ball sinker off of that, I think it's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, that's exciting. And that kind of takes us into the next segue, which would be, what are your expectations for 2022? I know you're very happy with the way 2021 ended. You're very happy with where you're at right now. Your off season's going very well. So I know you're going goal by goal here. So what do you expect from 2022?
Biggest thing for me is, like you said, step by step. I'm not even looking at the season. I'm just looking forward to a really strong, healthy spring training, just to kind of get things going, get the ball rolling, and then just snowball from there, like kind of keep that momentum and then truck throughout the season.
Do you feel like there's still a lot of projection left in maybe your fastball where you could add miles per hour to it, or projection within your body per se? Is there a lot of projection left for you?
I would say 100%. Like, I'm still kind of 100% developing like that body awareness, that feel, and like, not to say I didn't have it before, but like every year I kind of surprise myself. Like, I feel better. I can that mind muscle with things, and just being able to feel it out. That's something you really need to be a pitcher. You got to know where things are, how you're moving, be able to feel things and make the adjustments when you need to. Whenever
you pitch, you have the ball in your hand every play. Obviously, there could not be a bigger spotlight than that. You were at IMG Academy in high school. You're going to go to Vanderbilt in college. Now you're with the Dodgers. There's no more. There's no organization that has a bigger spotlight on it than the Dodgers do. So you've kind of grown up in the spotlight, and that seems like something. Those pressure situations, the leverage situations, the high leverage situations. That seems like something that you thrive on.
I would definitely say I feed off of that. Like, I'm somebody that I want the ball in the high pressure situation. I want like everything to be on me, and I want that responsibility. And I think that like you said, like I like live for those moments, and I strive off of that.
Yeah. And, just kind of watching you pitch, it's really fun for me because, just watching your body language, which I know the Dodgers are huge on because they're huge on culture, and just watching the way that you handle yourself through success and failure. It's obvious that you handle yourself with a lot of confidence. So where would you say that confidence came from? Would it be success or maybe some of your mentorship or where would you say that came from?
I would say just kind of the way I grew up, the way my dad raised me, what he instilled in me, and just the way kind of my mindset has always been about things. And I've always known that I was good at baseball growing up. I was when I was younger, I was just playing because I loved the game. I wasn't playing because I was thinking about getting college scholarships or getting drafted or anything like that. And I think that just slowly over time, it's kind of just built, and I just kind of fed off that. It's just kept going and going and going, and here we are. So I think it's kind of built a solid foundation for that.
Couple things as we are talking with Kendall Williams here on Dodger Poke Report, and I cannot thank him enough for joining us this evening. But we just mentioned the spotlight that you've always been in. Obviously, you're big physically to begin with, so you're going to draw attention from there. And then you've been in big situations. You've had huge success, and you've enjoyed those situations. So, whenever I do these interviews and I get to talk to professional athletes, I like to ask them the question for younger kids who who are striving to be like you and someday be in your position. What advice would you tell them? I just mentioned you handle yourself with such confidence. What advice would you tell them as far as any sport or whatever it may be that they're doing, how to have that much confidence? How do you develop that confidence?
I would just say put in the work and control the controllable. Don't let the outside noises kind of creep in, because all it's going to do is affect you negatively. Just focus on what you can do daily and your habits, and just as long as you're putting it in, you're going to get it out. So just believe in that. Just trust the work.
One last thing, as far as, just kind of the way that you are, we mentioned the spotlight a minute ago, and you love it. And there are a lot of people out there, especially in athletics, that are what I call afraid to fail, if that makes sense. And you cannot be, if you want to be successful especially in a game of failure like baseball. So how did you overcome that? Was that ever a situation for you? Do you have any advice for somebody younger that may be trying to overcome that type of situation for themselves?
Definitely. I would say it was tough for me because the thing that you're going to have to understand, like you said, game of failure, like it's inevitable. If you want to be a professional baseball player and play at a high level for a long time, you're going to get hit around. You're going to have terrible days, and you're going to have to be able to pitch and put together games and put your team in a position to win when you feel terrible. And there's going to be a lot more of those days than there is where you feel great. So you just kind of got to ride it out. Like as soon as that outing's over, good or bad, the outing's over. It doesn't matter anymore. It's on to the next one. Even further than that, in games, it's the next pitch, one pitch at a time. That's all you can focus on. That's the best way to go about it. Just short-term memory.
Kendall, I enjoyed the conversation we've had this evening. I have certainly enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better. Of course, I talked to Ryan Noda, and I didn't mention this, so you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but I got to talk to Ryan Noda back in August, and he was one of the other two. There were two people in that trade for Ross Stripling. So did you guys kind of talk to each other about how that went down together, or is that not something you guys have done?
We, like, afterwards, when he showed up at CBR and I saw him, like, yeah, like for sure. But beforehand, no, I didn't until I saw him in person. There was no communication there. But it's cool though. He's a great dude. Obviously, that's a big focus at the Dodgers is they want the best players, but they also want the best people. Like I said, he's a great dude. I think he fits in well with kind of what we're trying to build.
Man, you're in your early 20s, and you got life by the tails, brother. You're sitting in Arizona, and man, you're a professional pitcher in a great organization, and you have this perfect perspective on how to handle everything. Honestly, I think I'm kind of jealous because you've got this thing all figured out, man. This is you've got it made. So congratulations, and I certainly appreciate you joining me, man. I'm sure you're having the time of your life, aren't you?
Yeah, for sure. I'm enjoying it. That's a big thing too. Is you gotta enjoy the ride. Like obviously, I don't want to be in the minor leagues, and I'm kind of putting in all the work to get to the big leagues and stay there. But you gotta enjoy this too because it's all the little things and being around the teammates, the bus rides, the hotels, all that stuff. Still, it's a big factor in kind of just what we do. So we take pride in that stuff.
I hopped in on your Instagram live the other night, and I got a kick out of it because it was obvious that you don't take yourself too seriously, which is an absolute must in the game of baseball. So I enjoyed watching that for a minute. So awesome, dude. Get used to this name. You're going to hear a lot of them because this guy's talented, and this guy is on his way up, and he is very good. So Kendall Williams, I want to thank you again for joining Dodger Poke Report, and I hope to see you again. And I don't know when you're going to make it up to Double-A Tulsa, but I will be there the first time that you pitch.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, Kendall. Thank you very much.